I'm eating, so my camera is off for the moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As am I.
I ate.
As did I.
All right, so we have quorum, I assume, right?
Ah, there's an
There you
agenda.
go. Good.
Aren't we fancy?
We're gonna start the year on the right foot, bro.
Would it be possible for you to make that a little bit larger? I'm too old to read that.
Yes, we have quorum.
Alrighty, so hang on one sec. One sec. Wait,
Yes.
when did you get my email?
When?
Oh, an hour ago, maybe.
I would have to check.
When you get around to it, you can just want to make sure that you got it.
Did you get mine?
Yes. I needed to read a book in a bunch of different news media outlets so that I can give you the response to all those answers. It was almost like an interview from the New Yorker or something.
Is this the one that say call anytime tomorrow after 5?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I have it.
Good. So now that we have quorum, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you, guys. Happy New Year to those of you who I have not had the opportunity to speak to since. Those of you who I did receive my deepest wishes to, so that we all could have a productive year moving forward. My report basically consists of what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, which has been consistently, actively participate in anything that has to do with our vaccine or the what we think as our priority number one, which is the vaccine distribution in our community. I was honored to attend two press conferences. One from Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and New York City Controller Scott Stringer. And in both, I was fortunate enough to be allowed to speak. And I basically just went over how our zip codes 10033, 3233, and 34 and 40 have contributed, probably one of the zip codes that have contributed the biggest deaths. Therefore, we needed to be put higher in the priority list as to how this vaccine was going to be distributed. I was also honored to attend NYP's opening of the vaccine distribution site that they have extremely well put together and organized in the Armory. They started last week and they started with their patients only. And I'm sure that you guys have read it in some sort of press releases that have been around, especially ours. And they, as I said, they started with their patients and then they moved on to anyone over 65. There were certain issues with how their online only system of making appointments wasn't really jiving with the majority of our seniors, so they adjusted it. And what they did now is to reach out to our CBOs. And now their team is working with the CBOs from the community and trying to get the CBOs to do the outreach and contact some of the seniors that were not able in the beginning to be part of the vaccination process. Curtis, I think I gave them your number directly. I don't know if they have already reached you, since you know work with the organization. The organization work with seniors. I gave Mary Anderson's number, and I also think Domingo and his uplift and the parents of the kids that he trains. Those three. Anyone that I might have missed, please give your telephone number to Ebenezer, and he'll contact Julio Batista, who will be giving us next in the general meeting a rundown, a summary of where we are and how the vaccination process is going. Faye, that's the number that I should have given. So for those of you, any one of you that has direct outreach with any CBO that has seniors over 65, this is critical that we give out those numbers to NYP. That's basically what I wanted to report. And also, I've been part of an initiative. It's called the Vanguard, that is partnered with Yeshiva University, City College, Colin Powell of Economics, and some Columbia students, and calling out and outreach and doing some outreach for small businesses and local small businesses so they can participate in the new phase of the PPP, which is called PP 2.0. We've been calling and making sure, collecting data, making sure what businesses are open, who are not, the businesses that have already taken advantage of the phase number one, the paperwork they need to get the forgiveness so that they could apply and fill out the requirements for PPP 2.0 and so forth. So we've also been doing a lot of work outreaching our small businesses so that those who can survive, and those who cannot, at least, they were given a shot in the arm so that they could make it through. That's pretty much my report. So Ebenezer, yours is next, unless anyone has a question before I move on.
I have a question.
So Mary has a question, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so do I.
you said you gave them my phone number, my information for
Yes.
calling me.
Yes.
I haven't heard a thing.
That was today around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because they started with the CBO outreach today.
Okay. Okay. That wasn't clear. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
So Eliezer, unrelated to the topics in your report, but something that you can perhaps bring up at Borough Board. I'm experiencing some issues with timely notice of actions currently on the part of city planning. I reported last month that the zoning text amendment concerning coastal flooding, we were briefed at the December land use meeting, and the deadline was on the 28th of the month, which was rather tight given that we were having the general meeting early. But also the text amendment was released in October, and the first time city planning reached out to the committee to brief it was in November to brief it at the December meeting. On Monday, I got an email from city planning reminding me or telling me about another zoning text amendment that's related to something we did in 2018 with hotels, and the deadline for providing comments not on the text amendment itself but on the scoping is this Friday. And so I said, well, did you previously send this information to the office or whatever? And I haven't gotten an answer to that, but periodically we run into these issues where we are being asked to comment on things and we're being given very limited time to do it. And in the past, either our planning rep at the borough president's office or our representative at city plan would give us a heads up when these things are coming, like a month before when they're working on finalizing it, so that we can be geared up to schedule it. And that has not been happening in the last year or so.
I will bring it up. I'm making note of it, on the timing of it, right?
Yeah.
And I had my hand raised.
Yeah, you were going next. Curtis?
Yeah, I just want to, I know Steve Simon is not here, but he's been working on this issue, just more so of a comment or a concern. You know, about 2 weeks ago, I did go online myself to look at the testing sites, and it's been resolved now, but it still is deeply concerning that when you look at the initial map, there were not any testing sites, or excuse me, vaccination sites in our area. And I think it's really something that the community board should most certainly keep on their radar as we think about equity and the vaccination plan and what's going on, distribution, that we remain close to the conversations and that we're at the table, the community board as well as the health committee, to ensure that there is equitable rollout of all vaccinations. There also, I mean, with our zip codes, I do think that the community board needs to demand a little bit more with testing and share and helping to organize PPE distribution. There seems to be a lot going on all over the city, but it doesn't seem like there's enough going on in our own community. So I just want to put that on your radar, because that's also something I think you can take to the borough board to just continue to keep on their radar, that we need services in our community, and there's a reason the numbers are high. It has nothing to do with just, you know, people are just ignoring the rules. It has a lot to do with just the services are not being provided in our community in the way they should.
Those are great points, and I'll make sure that those are brought up to the board and to NYP themselves. When they come to make their presentations in a general meeting, we have another opportunity to hammer it down and make sure that we get the right answers and put the pressure that the situation needs. Thank you, Curtis. Unless someone else has another question, I will move on to.
Yeah, I had a question, and it was not necessarily a question. It was more around what Curtis just said, because I think it's important to know how this disproportionately impacts again communities of color, right? Because also what we have to talk about is education about the vaccination. I feel that there's a lack of education around the vaccination, and further feeding into people's like conspiracy theories that the government is out to get them and this is a way of microchipping, you know. And I think it's very important to expand the area of educating our community and what the vaccination means, what's inside these like vaccines, and really educating our community on the importance of getting vaccinated.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Me, Tanya.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, I just wanted to welcome Omar Tejeda as treasurer, and myself to the executive committee. I just want to say hello to everybody, and it's nice to be meeting with you all tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebenezer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always a pleasure being here as your district manager. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome Ms. Tanya Bonner as second vice chair, Community Board 12, and also Mr. Omar Tejada as treasurer. The first item I would like to report is a request that we received late in December from OMB. This request was asking the community board to reduce the spending for the rest of fiscal year 21 for the entire fiscal year 22. The reduce for fiscal year 21 was the requirement was $3,628, and the reduce for fiscal year 22 is $8,153. OMB required that we present a program in our part how we're going to do that as a city agency. I spoke with our chairperson, Mr. Eliazar Bueno, who said, you know, go over the budget, but do not touch the personal services funds that may imply either reducing the hours or, you know, lay off for a few days the staff or lay off staff, et cetera, et cetera. So we were able to go over the budget and present a plan to the OMB, how we're going to reduce, reducing $3,628 for the rest of the fiscal year, and the $8,153 for fiscal year 22, without affecting the personal services and also achieving all our payments. We did that. We submit the program or the proposal to OMB, and they approve it. I later received a phone call from the mayor's office asking us how we're going to do this, and I explained to them that we're going to be able, to do that without lay off anyone or affecting the personal services. That was their concern from the mayor's office. I met several times with our new treasurer, Mr. Omar Tejada, to update our Impress phone account, the signature card, and also to review the board finances and the payment process in Community Board 12. I need to report that we are in contemplation of purchasing the right for a new Zoom account, extra Zoom account to add it to the use. We have conversation with the Zoom company. I haven't finalized that because I want to make sure that they gave us credit and they, as a tax exempt city agency, and I am, wrapping up a few things with the payments to make sure that we can do the payment as OMB is required. But Eleazar, our chairperson, indicate to us that we need to have a second account to accommodate the meetings that overlap at least twice a month. The Equal Employment Practices Commission sent us a preliminary interview questionnaire. They do an audit to make sure that every employer is complying with the requirements of equal employment. At the end of December, I fill out all the questionnaire and present all the proof that we have that we are in compliance with the requirements of the equal employment practices in our office. DCAS called us to let us know that they are in the process of renewing our lease, our office lease. And last Tuesday, two engineers and one architect went to the office to inspect it. They were impressed in the way our office is. They said that is one of the few public or community board office that are in good shape. This is the end of my report. Is there any question? Hearing none, thank you very much. God bless you all.
Sorry, Debbie has her hand up.
Oh, Debbie?
Sorry, this actually related to the last conversation, and I know MBPO will probably cover it, but the letter from the Manhattan Borough President on January 14th with regard to the situation with testing in the city is probably worth a read from all of us, covering over 3 pages with small type, many of the issues that Curtis and everybody raised, and Domingo. That's it.
Yep. I also have a question, but cannot raise my hand with the with your screen share on. But a quick question, Ebenezer. With regard to our lease renewal, do we get any kind of a discount given the amount of time we actually have not been able to use it?
You mean a discount from our landlord?
Well, yeah.
No, we didn't have any discount from our landlord. The only thing that we got is a delay in the payments, when I was not able to process the payments. But thank God, we were able to process our payment, and we are up to date in December, but no discount from our landlord.
Was that topic raised?
Yes. Yeah, we actually pulled a meeting together with Columbia, which is our landlord, quote unquote, and Alianza and the property managers. And we were forthright, and we asked for the months that we were not closed, or that we were closed, that we were not open. And they're not able to, because that's something that the city and the building landlord would have to work out. But we were not able to get any discounts or anything.
Well, we should keep in mind that the rental payments do not come out of our budget. It's a separate budget. Does not affect our everyday operations.
Precisely. Thank you, Steve, for the clarification.
Well, thank you very much. God bless you all.
Can someone please promote Isidro to a panelist?
He's already there. I can see him. He's just muted.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you, Liz.
You bet.
Okay. Omar,
Hi,
your
everyone.
first report. Welcome,
yes.
Omar. Picture Omar.
Thank you. I shared a treasurer's report about probably 30 minutes before our meeting, and I'm not sure if that got around to everybody.
I saw it.
Yes. So thank you. I don't know if that's going to be sent to the rest of the committee so they can look at it, at this information.
Let me see if I can share it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Omar, while you're talking, do you mind putting
Yes.
your video on?
I'm not in a position right now to activate the video, but I'll have it for the next meeting if it's a requirement.
No, it's not a requirement, but
Okay.
nice to look at you. Okay, so
Thank
go
you.
on, Omar.
Yeah, so as this file is going around and being shared with everybody, what I wanted to take an opportunity is to kind of corral all of our financial data. And I want to first thank Ebenezer for sitting down with me a couple of times, and with Eli as well, to kind of bring some of this information more to light, to create more transparency around our budget and the way it's structured. And some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about real quickly, Ebenezer covered and Steve Simon actually just mentioned, is that our budget is kind of broken into three pots. It's the personnel costs, how much the staff salary will cost us for the year. Other than personnel costs, that's kind of like all the other funding that we use to manage the board that has nothing to do with personnel. And then our lease costs, which is the office space. And just to give everyone a heads up, just like Steve said, lease funding, although we have a budget for it, we can't leverage it. We can't touch it. We can't use it for anything else. So I showcase it here just to be transparent in terms of what the budget is for the board, but it's not funding that we can do anything with. It pays our lease. With that being said, we also have a small amount of funding that came into our other than personnel funding, which is about $10,000 that was awarded by Idanis Rodriguez to the board for graffiti removal. And that came in, I believe, not too long ago.
November.
That funding in November, there you go. So that funding right now, it's earmarked just for that, unless otherwise reported. The reason why that's important is when we begin to think about what the surplus is for the board, meaning how much extra funding is available at the end of the year that could be potentially repurposed for any need that we might deem fit. The board historically has averaged about $10,000 in surplus. And right now, if I were to take expenses that we had last year in these accounts that we have on the board and the forecast for the salary use this year, the board's sitting at around 44,000 projected forecasted surplus. And I want to put a big caveat on that because we're refining these numbers as I continue to understand more and more about how the board functions. The salary numbers could adjust as I understand, especially with longevity differentials. And to give people an understanding on what that means is that as our staff ages, there are contractual agreements based on the type of staff that we have that will continuously give them a bump in their salary automatically. And that's what's called longevity differential. So the reason why I say it's a caveat in terms of how much funding we have projected as a surplus is because there's things of this nature hitting, as well as what Ebenezer just mentioned, which is the city's undergoing a budget efficiency project. And that means, hey, everyone has to give up some funding that they have so we can make ends meet. And as Ebenezer noted, the District Board 12 gave up $3,629. And that's not reflected in our budget just yet. It's not a reduction that's been taken. So if we have a projected surplus, say, separating personnel budget, saying just the other than personnel budget, which is everything but personnel. If the projected surplus is 17,000 and you have about 4,000 that you're giving up in an efficiency, that's already down to 13,000. And then we have 10,000 of that potential surplus that's earmarked for graffiti. So you start seeing how we begin to nibble down what's a real surplus in this board. It's not a lot of money. And although we've averaged about 10,000, I'm saying it's anywhere between 4 and 10 at this moment. I'm going to refine this number as we continue to go, if I become more familiar with the board. But it's a lot of words to say. We don't have a lot of surplus. And that's the reality across all city agencies. There's just not a lot. So that's really what I wanted to get across here in this reporting. Just note that next year, the board is going to have to give up $8,153 as well in their overall budget as part of these efficiency plans by the city of New York. So just be prepared, where our wallets are going to keep getting tighter. And that's everybody in New York City. Everyone's wallet is getting tighter because of the effects of what the pandemic has done.
Thank you, Omar. I have two hands. I don't know which one was first, either Steve or Curtis. Which one was first? Curtis, you were first. Go right on, bro.
Because Steve is chewing, so I think he's not ready. My question was, it's great to hear the graffiti removal line item, because that was something that was removed from the city budget last year. So a lot of organizations and businesses had to find ways to get graffiti moved from their buildings. That is, as obviously it's a big part of where we are right now. So how is that allocated? Are CBOs or businesses applying to the community board for funding to hire graffiti removal services, or how does that work? That's question number one. And the second question is there a way to, although between 4 and 10 is a very small number, is there a way to allocate funding for distribution of PPE in the community, sanitizer, mask, etc., services that may be of need? Kathy has her hands up. I guess that's a no. But those are my two questions.
I can
Great. Thank you. I'm going to defer to Eli on those answers.
I'm going to take you can take on the second one, but I can also just take on the first one. That was one of the questions I asked. Once it took about 3 months for the money to be actually deposited into the account that we draw upon. But once it's earmarked for a specific duty, you can't touch it just for that. And as far as what communities, what CBOs can work around the subject, I mean, anyone can. You just have to be on a specific one. In the beginning, since Cloth has the experience on graffiti removal, I had spoken with Yvonne as to kind of like guide us through, getting the artists and getting, a lot of the logistics that we needed in order to make the process a very successful one. But that's how it worked. And the second one, Omar, all yours.
I mean, I think that depends, because the DCAS is doing a lot of the procurement for PPEs, is my understanding. At the moment, and again, I put a big, caution on this. I don't see anything that stops us from doing that. I think it's the procurement method that is the more of the challenge, because I think this would be a partnership with DCAS, who I believe was doing all the procuring for the city for PPE. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. But nothing, I think, at this moment would stop us beyond saying, hey, DCAS, is there a way that we can get a little amount of that? But just be forewarned that city agencies have, between Department of Education, between health, like those are the big orders right now of PPE, and they're being funneled to them. And then they funnel out to the rest of the needs. So it's a matter of reaching out to see, hey, if it's possible that we can get a small amount for our use.
And Eliezer, I'm sorry, this is just follow-up. Can I pose a follow-up, please? So the graffiti removal, how can a business access the services? Is it through, you mentioned Cloth, is that worked out yet, or is that still in the pipeline, and how is that information going to be shared to businesses who may need to have graffiti removed from their storefronts or whatever?
Right, we did some canvassing. We have about 20 pictures that we took from different places, from 155th all the way to 218th. So the data is there. But it's still in the pipeline. So we can work out something as to when we meet with Cloth the next time we go. Isidro, Steve was first, and then Isidro. Steve, is still chewing, or are you good?
Yeah, I'm still chewing, but let me follow up about the graffiti removal. So I mean, are we gonna have to hire a crew in order to do the graffiti removal, or is the idea that we would transfer the money to cloth, since cloth already has an existing mechanism to handle it?
No, the idea is to hire local artists to, in some cases, you want to remove the graffiti. In some other cases, you want to paint, artistic paint, artistic paint on top of the removals wherever is allowed. And then the first phase would be to have conversations with, as Curtis mentioned first, uh, the business owners under which the graffiti was put under their gates. In some other cases, you have graffiti over the buildings themselves, and then you have to have that conversation with the buildings. So that's what we at with that.
So you feel confident that we'll be able to spend this money ourselves on this project, rather than maybe pass it on to one of the CBOs that might be better equipped to do it?
Yeah, that's the purpose. We're just working along with them. We just sort of like coaching them as to what it is that we need and have them do the work.
No, but we're going to be in charge of actually spending the money and being responsible for all of this additional paperwork and bureaucracy.
No, our responsibility is just making sure that it's done in a process that is equitable and is done in the places and the locations where we need it the most. That's our only job here.
But we're going to hire the people to do the graffiti removal, and we're going to hire the artists.
That's
Really
all
sounds-
on. That's all on the CBO. That's a lot of work for us.
Yeah, it sounds like something beyond our ability.
It sounds like we are the funding source, but they're responsible for getting it done.
And they just telling them what we needed the most, and that's it.
And then we're
I see two hands. I see Isidro and Tanya. Who was first?
Sorry.
Isidro was first.
Okay.
Thank you, Tanya.
Isidro.
So word of caution, the bid does removing. We outsource that because obviously we don't have the personnel. It's easiest to outsource it. We document it by taking pictures of all the gates. And be careful because I believe that you cannot paint over murals, and then you don't know who owns what murals. So the way that we document here in the bid, we take pictures of gates.
Mm-hmm.
And then we outsource that to a cleaning company that does all the graffiti. They come in like really early in the morning, and then they'll send you a picture back to see that the graffiti was removed. So Eli, you don't have to take pictures within the bid because we take care of that already for our businesses. But just be careful though, that you don't send out pictures of murals because these are protected.
Yeah, I know the difference, but thank you. All right, appreciate that. Tanya.
Yes, Omar, thank you for that report. Very thorough, and thanks for the projection for where we might be next year. That's really important. Helps us to kind of have some perspective here. I wanted to ask about how we can, in light of this tight budget and tightening budget and anticipated tight budget in the future, how do you see us? What will be some avenues for us to engage around priorities and some things that we might need, and how we can make sure that we have the funding for it. Think about things like continued translation services and also things around work around COVID and things like that. Like how can we how do you anticipate us sort of having a voice in that? And then the second question is it possible to sell that stationary streaming thing that's in the office?
Well, to the first question, it's really about how do we mitigate the impact of our flexibility. And that's a tough question, right? Because it's about what do we reduce in terms of to protect, like say something like a service of translation services. And once you start looking at the fact that we have like copier leases that we kind of have to keep services running, we have postage expenses that we have to keep running, you start trying to find where you have these possibilities. Again, as the office did with the almost $4,000 reduction, they did not want to touch personnel services, and that'll kind of be like the last kind of place that we would go after. But it's a tough question because we don't have a lot of wiggle room right now. I don't see the impact to our translation services, as long as it sits today and it continues to be like that next year, as being at threat. But what ends up being at threat is any kind of surplus that we do have today. Because as Curtis said, can we do something with that little bit of funding for PPE? What might happen next year is that we don't even have that flexibility. What we do have is enough funding to keep our core services running without impacting salaries. That's what next year's going to look like, possibly. Again, who knows? We have, a new president that might change the way that the city is running in the future. But for now, that's as much as I can do. And the second question you said, can you remind me what your second question was?
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
about the stationary streaming thing
Oh.
that's in the. Is there a way to sell that?
That I don't have an answer on that.
Omar, so that it belongs to the New York City. It's part of the inventory, so it's their decision to make.
Gotcha.
Thank you. One last question. You said you got to put your hand down.
No, yeah,
Just
this
Liz
is the
Ray.
last
Okay.
hand.
All right.
Have I been called on?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm not sure if it's the same for everybody, but it's been my experience in Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee meetings that other than myself, because I think everybody shows themselves on top in the participant list, but when people raise their hands, I think that whoever is first is the top hand. And whoever's next is so that's how the order that people raise their hands in, by where they show on your screen.
Thanks.
It may be, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, so.
Yeah, I couldn't tell the difference because sometimes there were Tanya and Isidro were both on the top of the screen, but there were different.
Right, but whoever's on the top, that would be who you call on first, and then the next, and then they just kind of, I think the thing sorts it for you for exactly that reason, because otherwise it's impossible to tell.
Yeah, got it. I'm gonna start looking for that pattern to make sense of it. Great.
It only took me 7 months to figure that out. So, I mean, it's not like I.
Oh, that's funny. Ozzy, I think you're next on our report.
Thank you, Eli. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year and happy 15 hours before tomorrow at noon. I want to thank the office for the amazing spreadsheets in plural, that they sent out. I'm still working on the attendance, so I do not have that complete, and I will have it all complete and done for the next executive committee meeting. That's my report for tonight.
Okay, thanks. I'll take full responsibility for the beginning of the meeting, not acknowledge the belated Martin Luther King's Day. It was yesterday, but it should be more than a day. So I just want to acknowledge that. And Wayne, I'll blame you for not reminding me. You're always great at that. So I just wanted to say that. It's just, I think that we're all so eager to transition out of this mess that we're on, and Dr. King's words are a sign of release and sign of mental peace in times, those 4 years of that we've been through. So I just wanted to say that. I would like to also review the February and March meeting calendars. Hopefully you guys received them all. And if you guys have any changes that you'd like to make, start with February. Look at your meeting dates. If there's any conflicts or changes that you'd like to make, this is our chance. Nothing for February. Oh, moving along. Anything in March? Any changes?
1 second. February, can we take a step? Here we go. So this is going to come up in my report. We are doing a public safety, fire safety education event, fire safety education workshop on February 17th.
Yes.
And that should be added to the February calendar, in addition to our regular meeting.
Yep. Thank you. And you?
What is the name, Curtis, of the event that you have for the 17th?
It is a fire FDNY community fire safety workshop, open to the community to come and hear from FDNY. So you can title it FDNY Fire Safety Workshop.
At what time?
It's at I think we confirmed 6:30. Let me just double check.
Anything else on February?
6:30. So Wednesday, February 17th is the date of that workshop. It's at 6:30.
Okay. Any changes in March, guys?
Eli,
Yes. Yeah.
My committee would like to change its meeting time to 6:30 as long as we're meeting remotely. So Ebenezer, could you change on all these calendars? Could you change our time to 6:30?
Sure. Moving forward, Health and Human Services is going to meet at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, the Health and Environment.
Okay. Health and Environment. Okay.
March?
I just wanted to say, this isn't a change. I just wanted to advise that this year Passover starts on the 27th of March, and the way the holiday falls, it poses no conflicts this year with any of the committee meetings, because the holiday extends through that last week of March when there are no scheduled meetings. And by the time April begins, the holiday will have concluded.
That's good. It's good news.
All right, free matzah for everybody.
All righty. So we're good for March.
More like macaroons.
Good for February. So we're good to go on those reviews of Faye. Are you okay with any of the calendar dates, times? Faye, you with us?
I'm trying to unmute myself. Yes, I'm fine with it.
Okay, Faye.
Thank you.
All right, Mary, you
And
good?
everyone.
I'm good,
So everyone is good. All righty.
but you had them send out April as well, so.
Okay, all right, no problem. All right, so on our,
But you had them sent, you had April sent out as well. If you want to,
but it's not on the agenda for our review.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I have the old, okay, so I have the old agenda. So let's go over April as well.
You asked Paola to add it.
Yeah, so let's do April as well. Is there any conflicts with April's as well for any of the holidays, Jewish holidays? Oh, they're all good,
No.
in sync. Are they all in sync?
All good.
Oh, good. All right, thus far we're good. So we're gonna move on to the committee chair reports. I have a medical emergency that I need to attend. So I'm gonna pass the baton to Catherine and Tanya to finish the rest of the meeting. So good luck, guys, and thank you. It's been a pleasure being with you guys today.
Thank you, Ellie, and good luck. Paula, can you make Tanya and I co-host, please? Just so that we can manage time. And Tanya, are you cool timing folks?
Yes, I am.
All right, cool. So 3 minutes per
Okay.
speaker. Want to welcome Tanya and everyone else to our new executive team. I'm excited to kick off the year with y'all. And it's lovely vibes tonight. So we're going to start with Debbie, traffic and transportation.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Tanya. Traffic and transportation, it's so seldom that we don't have resolutions coming through. Two items on our agenda this past for our January meeting. The first one was the presentation of the rest of CB12 north of West 184th Street of the city bike station map. So if people remember, a draft station map was presented to us for the south of 184th Street section of Community Board 12, and which then began a comment period for the public and for us. As we did last time, public, and as DOT did last time, the public responds directly and can email at bikeshare@dot.nyc.gov. I'll actually look up to give you the exact thing. And then there's also a web, you can look at the maps on the web. This time the conversation was quite different, I would say, than it was in the first half. If people remember, because many board members were active the last time, that we had issues on like several stations, and particularly there was one that was very hot and needed to be addressed. This time, I would say that there were two big areas that the majority of the conversation fell around, and neither one was really about specific stations per se. And that was, one, we had a lot of comments about the city catching the bike infrastructure up to the city bike infrastructure, and particularly in the northern half of CB12, whereas we had a few people articulate the north-south ways to go on your bike, or St. Nicholas and Fort Washington. That really leaves a very vast valley of people, whose option is to take Broadway, which is not really an option if you're on a bike because it's so dangerous. So there was conversation around that, but perhaps an even bigger issue was that our stations have been pretty empty, which I thought was sort of a utilization issue, but it became clear that, the pond is not being restocked with regularity, and some stations worse than others, but just generally speaking, we don't have bikes. Lyft, again, this is a public-private partnership, is responsible for that. So there was a lot of feedback that really goes to Lyft about tackling this issue. So that was one topic. We also had a presentation from a group, the Wheels School High School group about.
That's time.
Oh, okay. But
you can
I'll
finish
try
up
to have my
Yeah.
notes early so people can take a look.
Okay, thank you. Are there any? Yeah, so Liz has a hand. Anyone other hand? All right, go ahead, Liz.
Two very quick questions. One is, do we have any information about that spectacular bus accident on Thursday? And two is there any exciting news about a local New York City senior DOT official joining the Biden administration that we want to know about?
That is true. One, I don't have any information. I actually have, I haven't had any opportunity to talk to our partners. And yes, Polly Trottenberg, who was until very recently the commissioner for DOT, has been appointed by the Biden administration to be basically Pete Buttigieg's number 2. So a very significant position for a New Yorker with a lot of experience. And as of now, our primary contact as a committee and as with the Manhattan Borough Commissioner, Ed Pinkar. So now he's bumped up kind of one level with the absence of Polly, as well as still covering his Manhattan Borough Commissioner role. And then actually, I guess, is it Margaret Forgione, who was before my time, who was a contact for this community board, is the acting commissioner at DOT.
Okay, awesome. I actually have a quick question. If there's anyone else. All right. In terms of considering I think that, it was a really well-attended meeting. There was a lot of folks who had questions. Next month, will there be any follow-ups? Are there any next steps that we can help kind of promote out around City Bikes?
That's an excellent question. So, and that's true. We are going to get another map. And then, however, I have to say, I don't have any any board member that has feedback about a specific station, any aspect of the map, should get that in to me over the next week or so. I don't have anything so far. I mean, we were waiting to hear about two sites, the two sites that are around the Columbia Sports Facility. But except that people wanted visibility on that. It's not like last time where we had issues at Cabrini and issues at 157th and issues on 180th and et cetera, et cetera. So if anybody's got that, I'll need to turn that in. I'd like to get that in the next like 8 days. But as of now, we don't have any. So again, I'll circulate it when the next round is out. But so far, we're not in the queue saying like, can you address this one or that one? It's actually was a pretty low amount of street, what do you call it, sidewalk. So that's one reason why we had less, just because it was like not that many as compared to the south end, which had
All right,
less.
awesome, thank you. Okay, so thanks, Debbie. We'll move on to Public Safety Committee, and we'll be hearing from our chair, Curtis Young.
Hello, everyone. We had our meeting, a very successful meeting. We discussed a resolution that was tabled back in December, not tabled, well, it was continued to be in draft format. So we will be bringing that resolution to the general body. And that is a resolution that was presented as a byproduct of the technical role violation and standing in support of that work, ushered by our assistant chair, Danielle Jetu. We also discussed with FDNY, who the new assistant director attended the meeting. After I invited her to attend, she attended and discussed the fire issues uptown, as well as we had a very vibrant discussion on what we can do to educate the community on fire safety. Obviously, we've had this problems with electrical outages and wiring in buildings, older buildings uptown. So we felt it was necessary to move forward and have an education workshop next month, which is why we have it scheduled for February 17th. And other than that, next month, we are hoping to invite a few panelists to come and talk about public safety and what this conversation on reimagining public safety could be. We thought initially it would be a separate workshop, but the committee voted to overwhelmingly suggested rather to have a meeting as a part of our regular meeting and just bring in panelists to discuss. So we're not choosing another date other than having like a public safety committee meeting, then a fire education meeting, and then a workshop on public safety. So we're going to try to have our regular public safety meeting from 7 to 7:45, and then maybe have a short break and have our panelists come on at 8 and have our panelists present and discuss some of the issues surrounding reimagining public safety, and then go from there. So that's our plan for the month of February. And yeah, happy to answer any questions.
All right, go ahead, Liz.
This is a little overlapping on Parks and Cultural Affairs, but I'm just wondering if why does the screen share keep on popping up? If
Paula, you can, I was gonna say, Paula, you can stop sharing there.
Have any information from the 34th precinct about the spectacular automobile crash into a retaining wall in Fort Tryon Park? And like what's happening with that and with the precinct's investigation for people who are not aware? There was a car like joyriding in the park on the pedestrian paths, and it crashed into one of the retaining walls, causing a little portion to, I don't want to say collapse because the wall appears to be okay, but there's like a big hole in it.
Got it. This is my first time hearing of this incident, so thank you very much for sharing. I'll be happy to reach out to them to inquire about the current investigation. They usually don't share information. They'll just say it's under investigation. We'll be in touch. but I'm sure that they'll give us at least some indication of what they're doing. So I'll add that to my list of follow-up items and get back to.
I will give you some more information later after
Sorry,
that.
I think Steve wants to drop some knowledge on that.
I was gonna say, he looks like it, yeah.
The investigation, I think I can report for the most part has been concluded successfully. And I believe I don't know how much I can say at the moment, but the car has been identified. We know the driver. The police have tracked him down, or her. I'm not at liberty to go into greater detail, but the investigation has proceeded, and we know who is responsible for this incident.
What about the structural integrity of the retaining wall?
That's outstanding news. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, please don't post anything on Facebook yet.
If I could comment on
Steve,
that.
sorry.
If I
Steve,
could
can-
comment on that.
One second,
It's
Jim,
not a
because Wayne.
retaining wall, it's a parapet on the top of a cliff. The cliff is made out
What's
of.
the structural integrity of the parapet on top of the cliff?
The parapet on top of the cliff is gone. It was knocked down. but
It was
the rest
more
of
than the parapet. The piece of the wall right under the parapet was also knocked over. We've had engineering staff take a look at it, and they believe that the wall is structurally sound. We're going to be sending people back there. I'm speaking now, of course, in my role in the Parks Department. We're sending people back there because there may be some loose rock that was knocked over from the upper level that may be on one of the lower portions of the wall, and we're going to remove whatever loose rock we find. But the wall itself, we believe, is structurally sound.
If I could just continue, the wall, most of the wall is rock. It's just a solid piece of rock, and nothing has happened to it.
Okay, thank you.
Since the Stone Age.
All right.
Since
Thank
the
you,
glacier.
everyone.
Can I?
Thank you, everyone.
Can I use a few more seconds of my time for public?
Yeah,
safety?
because he still has time, right, Curtis? I mean, Tanya.
Yeah. Oh, yes. He had
Yeah.
like a minute.
Okay. So go ahead, 30 seconds.
So in order for the FDNY to confirm with their education department to attend our meeting on February 17th, I have to submit to them a Zoom link. I sent the request to the office, and I have not received a Zoom link just yet. So could someone from the office please call me tomorrow or email me? We can set up a way for us to have a webinar format link sent out to the public. I don't know if they need to register, or if they're just one panelist link like we do here, and then one link for the participant. But I need that in order for them to confirm the 17th. They put a hold on it, but they said they can't confirm it until they get a Zoom link in this new reality that we live in now.
Okay, got it. I'll make sure that I mean, Paola and Ebenezer are on the call, so I'll make sure they got that. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to be moving on to business development, and we're going to listen to Domingo.
Hey, Happy New Year's, everyone. So basically, we had a great first meeting. We started off the year with a partnership meeting. One of the goals I came into this year was making sure we didn't assume, but basically have a good grasp of where individuals within our community, what areas they're working on, what scopes they're focusing on, and identifying some needs that they might have, and seeing how we could develop a partnership roundtable and make sure that we not only understand each other's needs, but in a community, local CBOs have to be in communication with clearly when they're working around similar interests, which in this case would be business development. The meeting went very well. We identified some next steps, and the key takeaway for the meeting was making sure that we develop a sort of informational hub. So I'll be contacting Jonathan. I spoke to Eliezer about potentially looking at the capacity of developing a small business resource tab within our website to further expand outreach for information, but at the same time to be able to have accurate information being sent directly from the key stakeholders into the community, to the community board.
And the pro of that is that we not only are able to provide accurate resources to our businesses, but we're able to keep track of what resources are available in the near future, and that the accuracy of what it requires for people to be able to access it. And next month, we'll be discussing marijuana and the business of marijuana. So the state, the Democratic Party has a super majority now in the state level, and what they're proposing was Governor Cuomo has been real vocal about the legalization of marijuana. Yeah. So that's something that we'll be discussing, just being able to understand what the business and being able to get one of these businesses up and started looks like.
Okay, thank you, Domingo. Wayne has his hand up.
Yeah, hi, Domingo.
Hey, Wayne.
Is business development going to invite the developer of the office building on Broadway to a meeting?
I reached out, Wayne, and I'm in the same boat you are. I'm just trying to figure out who these folks are, and I'm just waiting technically for the office to let me know if there's any relationship developed.
Okay, I haven't done any outreach because I was waiting to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm just, because I know that that's something that we're doing jointly, I believe. We discuss about the potential of something together. So at this point, I would just say, Catherine and the office staff, like, if there's any information, just please forward it my way, and I'll make sure to follow up.
Yeah, well, maybe the office can reach out to the borough president's office, which may have some information on who the developers are.
Yes, please.
Isn't it the same developer that was developing that was doing the development on the corner of 207th?
I have no idea. No idea.
Isidro has his hand, and Curtis, maybe Isidro could illuminate.
So which development are you referring, Wayne, on Broadway?
180 Broadway, where the theater was.
Oh, I can give you, I can.
Oh, no, that's not the one I was talking about. The gas station next to the Inwood Library, that's where the office building is going up.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Car wash, yes.
Yeah, with a car wash. Okay, let me make note of that one.
So what do we know about the Coliseum site, since someone was talking about it?
Well, remember, Jim, at land use, Chris Ventura knows the developers and he's going to outreach to them.
So what we could do is, Isidro, if you can email Domingo, CC Wayne, so that we can have some coordination between both committees, since I'm assuming it's of interest.
Yeah.
I want to respect the turn of hands. So Curtis had his hand next.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to say that's a great topic, Domingo. I would love to, and if you need any additional panelists or folks, I have a friend who organizes a nonprofit called the Equity Project that focuses on providing equity with the licenses and the taxation structures, as well for marijuana distribution. There's also the component of this conversation that relates to how this actually some people advocate saying that it's going to increase crime, but actually there's a lot of data that shows that it actually decreases crime in the communities, as well as it helps to lessen communities that have a high percentage of opiate cases and other forms of drug. It actually lowers that dependency in communities as well. So you may want to look at it from a health perspective as well, and how we may help with the opiate crisis, as well as how businesses need to protect themselves for maintaining the equity.
Appreciate you, Curtis. So part of the logic behind this is I started this new initiative in the committee where I'm encouraging committee members to take on topics that they like, and we co-moderate on those particular topics as a way of being able to share chair responsibilities with them. And Francisco raised this topic once when I proposed it, and what I'm technically doing is being a resource to him. And the only reason I haven't reached out yet is because there's nothing concrete yet. There's a Zoom that's going to be happening this weekend with one of the writers. He wrote the bill reform, and also he's been a very big proponent to the legalization of marijuana. And then out of that conversation, we're going to be able to see what type of organizations, because I know we have a pending collaboration, but I wanted to focus it more on the business aspect and bring people in that way. And then we get into the historical and the equity process, you know? So this is just the first touch point to be able to address that there's a new industry forming that's actually hit the $1 billion mark, and trying to see what's the conversation out there. And then we're going to start doing all these conversations around the historical component, the equitable component, and resolutions. Okay. So that's how I had it envisioned.
Okay, great. And Liz, is your hand up? Is that a new hand? Or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is. I'm not sure, but I think it's Mad Equities.
Are you talking about the where the
Building on
Inwood?
Broadway. I mean, I thought it was the same developer as the developer on the northeast corner of 207.
Yes, Liz, the same developer, as a matter of fact.
So that's going to be George Madruga at Mad Equities. So whoever is the contact for that other development, you know, if you want to invite the developer to a meeting to talk about the building on Broadway where the car wash was, then reach out to the contacts for the development on the northeast corner of 207th and 10th Avenue, and it's the same developer. And I think the law firm, not law firm, the architectural firm is Datner.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Liz. Because like right now we have a calendar. So Wayne, what I'm gonna do before I reach out to them is share our calendar and see what date works for both of us, and then we start organizing backwards. All right.
All right. I'd love to see
Just
the collaboration.
as we speak, I'm asking Chris Ventura Domingo to share with you the information about Mad Equities and BLDG, who owns 181st and Broadway. I'm doing that right now as we speak.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome.
So my two homeworks are Wayne further scheduling development a joint meeting with land use and business development around the development at the car wash. And then I'll reach out to the developer in 181st, and I'll reach out to you, Isidro, so we could just knock two birds with one stone at the same time.
Chris may already have reached out to them because at the land use meeting, this subject came up.
All right, cool. So what I'll do is
check with them.
Yeah, I'll say if we can take it on off.
Take it on offline.
A date. All right, Wayne. All right.
Sure.
All right.
And welcome to all the new executive board members, and let's knock it out the park this year.
All right, that's up. All right, so we're gonna move on to Youth and Education Chair, Faye. Whenever you're ready to unmute, Faye, if you can hear me, okay. Faye, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There we go.
Yes, I am. Just give me 1 second, please.
Okay.
I thought that it was how do you call it? Isidro terms. All right. Anyway.
Oh, you're right. It actually is Isidro turn. Do you need a second? Or are you ready to go?
Yes.
Yes, that you need a second?
Faye can go. It's not a problem.
Go ahead, Isidro. I'm sorry about that, Faye.
All right, not a problem. So which one is it? Is it me or Faye?
It's you, Isidro. Go ahead.
So thank you so much, Catherine. And I'd like to welcome all the new executive members that are new to the board, to the committee. Tanya, welcome back, or welcome. Just quickly, we had a really nice meeting on last Wednesday. We had 12 licenses. Only one license was actually new, and that's beer and wine. So a few times that we have so few new licenses, but I guess we can't understand why, right? Then all these renewals to change the method of operations, we rejected one renewal due to many complaints from board members, residents, and the precinct. And we also rejected one applicant who didn't show up. One application was withdrawn prior to the meeting. No many issues, right? It was very calm meeting, and I'm grateful for the committee members that were there, particularly those taking the minutes and writing the resolutions. So nothing much on licensing. And at this point, I think I'll open up the floor for questions.
Any hands? Wow, no hands for licensing. All right. Thank you, Isidro. Next up now, it is you, Faye. I'm sorry about that.
No,
Youth and
that's okay.
education.
We were able to fix it. Okay, I want to start by saying good evening, everyone. And yes, the first meeting Security Committee this year. I want to wish you all health, be safe, and all the best. On my report, all right, so I wanted to report that this year we started with our goal number 1, in which we started by giving members the opportunity so they can start directing our meeting. So we started with Waldy. So Waldy Cruz, our assistant chair, he directed the meeting, this past meeting, and we had a wonderful presentation. And the presentation that we had, it was from we have Mr. Irfan Ahmed. He's a senior manager, senior program and policy manager for the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City. So the initiative that he presented was about a new saucer pitch, which is basically an initiative that is a proposal for PS 137. Along with him, we had the principal, Emel Tomas Mejia, who is the principal for PS 87, along with other staff. So they presented the proposal. So, and as they call it, this type of proposal is a first of its kind, public and private partnership that it will build and maintain 50 acrylic mini saucers spaces throughout the 5 borough. So in our district, that was the school that was chosen. I don't recall exactly the reason why that school was exactly chosen, but it's in the video. But I posted that question because it's captivated my attention. So, but one of the goals that this initiative is into is or looking for is in keeping young people safe, active, connected with the community, and also unified. So this initially had about like a pool of partners. The park department is one of the New York City Park Department is one of the partners. Department of Education, I understood. They also have a housing and of course the mayor office. This proposal actually is chaired by the First Lady, Charlene de Blasio. And like I say, there is a pool of partners. And
Faye,
yes,
just a little time. You can finish your statement though, but it's time.
I will wrap it up quickly. So the main thing in here is we're gonna have. They need a letter of support, which the committee agreed. So for the board, they already have received letter of support from others board, but we need to issue a letter to them if the board agreed to support that initiative. Thank you.
Okay. Steve has his hand up. Steve, you're on mute.
Faye, does that mean you'll be presenting a resolution to the full board?
No, we're not considering passing a resolution. Not necessarily. We discussed that whether or not we want to pass a resolution, but
I think you need to.
Yeah, I thought we didn't do letters of support in our board, that we had to do it by reso, no?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the precedent that we
Yeah.
have, Faye.
So you
Faye, is there a timeline on that?
Well, they actually needed for, I think it was a 19 that they needed for today. I say, no, I don't think that's going to be possible because the executive committee, actually, I'm going to present the idea to the executive committee. It's going to be up on them to decide whether or not this is something that they wanted to support. But, I think that the letter will help them, but I don't think that will stop the project. So it's whether or not, if you think that we need to write the letter, in order to write the letter, the full board we need to pass a resolution. I definitely can put something together and present it at the general meeting.
Yeah, I think I know the practice that they follow when they're when they're doing these projects in parks is that we ask for resolutions from the community boards that are affected because they're presenting these proposals to the Public Design Commission, which has to act on them, and the PDC wants to see community board support. So I think it would be good for this board to do a similar resolution for this project. And I believe the reason they chose the 187 site is because the schoolyard is so large and that is more than sufficient space for this little field. It's not a full-size field. It's like a mini practice field.
Liz has her hand up.
I think we have all the, okay, go ahead.
To be clear, only the board speaks for the board. So we don't do letters of, the only time that we do letters without resolution is if there's some action, like the chair could send a letter, 2 years after a resolution reminding an agency, 2 years ago, we passed a resolution about blah, 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 and we just want to remind you that that's the position of the board. But we speak by resolution and we don't do letters of support. The letter of support is the letter that says, here's our resolution. So I just want to be really clear. We keep having this conversation and it keeps on being the same. We don't do letters of support, by which I mean, we don't do letters of support. We do
If I could comment on that to clarify it ever so slightly.
And the work of, yes, but
Yeah,
the
go
work
ahead,
of the
Jim.
committee happens in the committee and we.
If I could comment on that.
Can I just
Jim,
finish?
1 second.
Can I just finish my thought, James? I'm speaking.
No, actually.
Jim,
you've given some misinformation.
Jim, 1 second. Let Liz finish her point. You as
Thank
parliamentarian,
you.
I know you want to speak to that, and then I would like to close it. Go ahead.
I would also like to say that the work of the committee, the board happens in committees. And while we do have the ability to do things under new business at the full board and to do things at the executive committee when time requires it, I think we as chairs have the responsibility to do the work of our committees in the committee.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Jim, go ahead.
So in a few words.
Thank you. That was a very nice speech. The issue is not letters of support, it's who issues letters of support. Letters of support in the dark ages were issued by committees by themselves. That is what cannot be, because it has to be done, as Liz so correctly pointed out, by the full board. So we can actually send a letter of support, but in order to do that, a resolution has to be passed by the whole board to do that, not like in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so just to clarify this, because I have to get back to them as well. So, and thank you, James, and thank you, Liz, for bringing the clarification. So now, in presenting a resolution, should I then craft a resolution with information that the committee gathered and presented at the general meeting?
Wait, Liz is saying no. So you would have to, so the committee didn't pass a resolution on.
We did not pass, but we all agree collectively that this is something that deserves the support. That deserve to be, that they agree that we support it.
So then it would be a new reso post committee meeting.
So what I
think, but you said the deadline. So my question is, because if the deadline was today, and if there were even to be a resolution, because normally if after the committee meets, executive committee, the resolution is presented to the executive committee and we can vote on it here, and then later at the general meeting. So is it even, I would ask if it's even useful, right, to have a reso if they needed it by today and we don't meet until next Tuesday?
No, what happened was when I told them that we don't have the time to produce that, and that was actually something that it have to be presented at the today to the executive committee. They basically said that even if they don't have it by the day, but at least to have it for record that the board is in favor of this or is supporting this initiative, that's something that they will consider, even though they don't get it, on time. They don't get the letter in time, but to know in their records that community board support this initiative, that's something that they definitely will welcome. I would like to have it. Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to misspeak. I see another hand. Whose hand? Is that Steve? Steve, did you just raise your hand now, or is that an old hand?
It's an old hand, but it's a different issue.
Okay, so pause on that. Liz, is that a new hand or an old hand?
The new hand.
Okay, do you have something else to say?
Well, I mean, I think this is sort of more Jim's bailiwick than mine.
Yeah.
But, once again, the work of the committee happens in the committee. If the committee agree, if there was a discussion in the committee that said that they supported something, you didn't take a vote on it. So that's not a resolution that I feel like you can really put on the floor. I don't know.
Well, we don't.
Jim.
No, I think I have to say something that is quite important. We didn't have quorum to begin with.
Okay, well then you couldn't have passed the resolution anyway.
We didn't have quorum to begin with. But yes, those that were present were in agreement that we should support the initiative.
Okay, so then that would have to be for next month then, and I think you should let the group know that because you didn't have quorum in the first place.
The only other possibility, if it's really urgent, but it doesn't sound like it is, and they'll get it next month, is we could do it as new business at the general meeting. But again, it doesn't sound urgent, but I think as Steve pointed out, our general support would be helpful even if it's late. So they'll just do it at the next meeting. Thank you.
No, I think, James, if we can do it at the general meeting, so since based that we don't have quorum at that time, I think that's something that I would like to pursue.
Why don't we let Eliezer decide where he wants to do it since he runs the board, okay?
Yeah, so I'll raise it to Eliezer in terms of your notes there and the points of contention that we have here.
Let me mention I'm in constant contact with Mr. Ahmad, and I can ask him what his schedule is and whether he'll be adversely affected if he has to wait another month for the resolution. So maybe I can help sort this out.
All right, and can you let Ali know, please?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so
I had another issue I wanted to mention to Faye, if I can.
Go ahead.
At the Traffic and Transportation Committee, I don't think Debbie had a chance to bring it up, but there was a presentation by the students from Wheels, and it's a very impressive group of students. But it continues to bother me that Wheels has got this crazy configuration where part of the school is in the prefab building on the south side of the street, part of the school is in the main building in 143, and if they're going to have a really in the middle of the day, they got to bring their students out, have them walk across the street, put on their coats, walk across the street, go over to the gym or the cafeteria or to the library or wherever else they have to go in the main building. I think it would be a good issue for the committee to pursue as to, and maybe it should be one of our budget priorities in the future. It should be one of our budget priorities, I think, that they should have their own building. The school, all of the students in that school should be in one building. They shouldn't be divided the way they are.
Well, they co-located an IS 143. So
yeah, but it's a crazy split the way the way it's been organized. It's they should find another building for them where they can all be in one place.
Yeah.
In all types of weather, the kids have got to they got to leave one side of the street and go to the other side of the street. It's nutty.
Okay.
Well, I can mention to them if they have that in their projection, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Yeah, I'd like to know, are they actually trying to get another location? Yeah, maybe you could ask them.
All right, we're gonna move forward. But thank you, Steve, for raising that point as something that education can take on.
Well, thank you all.
Ariel, perfect timing. Let's move on to
Actually,
housing.
I had my hand up for that.
On what point, for education?
On
or
Steve's
for,
point. On Steve's point.
Debbie, we just because of timing, I'd really like to move forward. Is it something, a new question, or?
It's not a new question. It's not really a question. I would just say the school either has a plan to go for a building or not to go for a building. And I just don't think, Steve, I mean, I don't think this is yet, it's a community board matter, and it's not, and if they, for us to put it on our agenda, unless the actual school is looking to do that, which we don't have evidence that they are doing. They are applying potentially for an open street that would allow them to cross the kids more safely. So that's it. I don't mean to get in a whole thing, but come on.
I get you, and that's something
and
that
it's not
that's
a CB, then it's a CEC issue. But so
and that's something that youth and education can decide as a committee as well to add to their agenda.
Yeah.
So
I can invite
Ariel,
them.
go on. We're gonna move on to housing and human services, please. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening. Happy belated MLK Day. So for this past month, we had been discussing essentially the matters of, once again, the Department of Homeless Services. We've been trying to get in contact with them. I've specifically been speaking to Leilani Irving, which actually our district manager referred me to. It is in reference to both the shelter as well as the matters of everything pretty much going on with shelter. DHS services throughout Fort Washington Heights and also Inwood. Right now, we just had a conversation this past week with Eliasar, as well as I believe the director of community relations for the Bowery Residents Committee. That is the organization that is supposed to be looking at taking over 3966 10th Avenue. It is a property that's been cited as essentially what was a mass grave for enslaved people. And it has been essentially chosen for the shelter site. What I've mentioned to Miguel is that I had wanted us to try and set up an essential virtual town hall of sorts for the community board. At this moment, he's essentially declined. The reason I think that he's trying to make it so is that he wants to hold what is their own listening sessions to discuss the matter of how they might commemorate that individual property. I made it clear that I was a bit concerned about this, trying to separate the two conversations, given that they could in very many ways be related, but he did not necessarily kind of heed that call. And so he has essentially told us that he's going to be sending over soon what will be some reminders and dates for these individual sessions. They're going to be held alongside with the Manhattan Borough President's Office, in addition to a few other organizations that he's working with.
1 minute, Ariel.
Particularly the Darkman Farmhouse. So, I mean, that's where we have been. We've also been talking to one of the other organizations that's come by before, Growth and Development Services. They've been still seeking space. And so, of course, we are trying to address the issue where possible because mental health services is still of need, especially amongst many of our youth. So I will, of course, give more updates as I hear them. Thank you.
All right, are there any hands for Ariel, please? Oh, seeing none, we can move on to parks with Liz Ritter.
We're still working on the discussion about renamings of Bennett Park, Bennett Rest. No updates on that, but that's an ongoing conversation. We had a lengthy presentation from the Parks Department about a proposed design for the Dykeman soccer field, which is the northern part of the Dykeman Fields. Dykeman Fields includes a couple of softball fields at the southern part. There's like a picnicking grassy area, and then a couple of softball fields, and then some picnic tables and the soccer fields. And we really liked the presentation, had a robust conversation about it, some questions, a little give and take. It'll all be summarized in the minutes, which I will be getting out later this week. and we had a unanimous resolution in support of the proposed project. That's all I got.
Any questions for Liz? All right, so seeing none, we're gonna go on to land use. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you, Catherine. So land use will have 2 resolutions to present to the full board, and they come out of the 2 presentations or agenda items that we had this month. The first one pertains to Department of Cities Planning's zoning text amendment for coastal flood resiliency. And as I reported last month, the presentation was made to us at our December meeting, and we were told that, the deadline for comments was, just after Christmas. We advised that time frame was too tight, and the best we could do was to consider a resolution in January and have the executive committee, vote on it on behalf of the board. When we met in January to review any comments we would have, we learned from our DCP reps that we have a little more time. So the reason why I have not presented something to you to vote on tonight is that it would be fine if we take it to the general meeting, because apparently we're not the only community board having a problem with the tight time frame. So we're basically in support of the zoning text amendment, but offered 10 or 12 comments on how they might include some other things or help to strengthen it a bit. The second resolution is a follow-up to a resolution we passed, I think, in 2015, asking the Landmarks Preservation Commission to engage with us, the board, and with community residents to further designation of individual landmark buildings as well as historic districts. Basically have a dialogue about what our thoughts are and to move that forward. LPC has not really done that, and we've pointed out that in many instances, Upper Manhattan is underrepresented, and anything that's related to the history and culture of people of color is underrepresented. So we're calling upon them to re-engage in that, but also that we had a presentation by a gentleman who I think used to chair land use of CB10. There is a proposed historic district in CB10 that would be the first historic district out of the 151 historic districts in the city to be named for an African American. And while it's not in Community District 12, we think, the discussions we've been having about equity and inclusion.
30 seconds, Wayne, sorry.
That we support that on that basis alone. Sounds it.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but basically that was it.
On a very good point, so sorry. Thank you.
Bring up the egg time.
Questions?
Any questions? All right, folks are quiet. All right, we're off to you, Steve, with health and environment.
All right,
Thank you.
The latest results on the positivity rates for COVID-19 in our 4 zip codes continue to be distressing. Zip code 34 in the week ending on the 16th last week was over 11%. That's the highest any of our zip codes have ever been. It was ranked at number 22 out of the 177 zip codes in the city. That's the highest any of our zip codes have ever been ranked. So there were 180 positive cases during that week. Zip code 40 was at 8.93%. Zip code 33 at 8.18%. Zip code 32 was relatively in good shape at 6.74%. All told, we had 729 positive cases during that week, which I believe is also the highest number of cases we've ever had in any particular week. That could also be a function of the increased number of people who are being tested, but it's not good. The previous week was to some extent even worse. So all 4 of our zip codes were over 9%, and zip code 34 was over 10%. And the week before that, or actually the last week of December going into the first few days of January, everybody was between 8 and 9.3%. And we, at that point, had 558 positive cases. We're not in the worst shape in the city, but we certainly have issues and problems here. In terms of clinical trials, I followed up on the presentation that Dr. Ho made at our general board meeting in December. Columbia has actually been involved in 2 clinical trials. The Johnson & Johnson drug, they enrolled approximately 100 people in that study, and 300 people in the AstraZeneca study. Both of those trials have now been completed, and the results have been forwarded to the FDA for its review. So it may turn out that that we're going to have 2 more drugs come online in the very near future, and apparently a lot of residents of Washington Heights and Inwood were participants in both of those trials. And finally, I've been in touch with the Corner Project, which informs me that they are now negotiating a lease for a permanent location in Washington Heights. So apparently the plan they previously had to have trailers on Amsterdam Avenue is now way on the back burner.
Perfect timing.
Right on time. Any questions for Steve? Isidro, and followed by Liz. Go ahead, Isidro. You're on mute, Isidro. There you go.
Thank you, Catherine. Steve, do we know where exactly they are going to be moving?
I tried to get it out of them, but I don't know. I have no details.
Thank you.
Okay. Liz?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That's incredible news about the Corner Project. Fingers crossed that everything goes through successfully with that. I have a question. Do we have any update on what's happening with the psych beds at the Allen Pavilion? Has the hospital made any commitment about returning those beds to service? Because, you know, the community really needs those beds.
No, they have not made any such commitment. You know, I can forward to you and to others. There was an exchange of correspondence between the elected officials and the hospital president back over the summer. He alluded to doing a comprehensive plan for behavioral health services in the community, including inpatient beds. He said he would reach out to the elected officials and to community partners in the fall in order to develop that plan. That did not occur, and I'm trying to find out where that might stand. But they have said that they need those beds, that psych unit at the Allen Hospital, as a possible place for COVID-19 patients with the increasing surge. That they invested a lot of money in converting those beds into a COVID-19 unit. They don't want to just undo it because they think they need it, and they cannot tell us when. And to my distress, they don't quite tell us if they're going to bring back the psych unit.
I'm not unsympathetic to the reality of COVID beds given our numbers, but I think that, and I appreciate the advocacy that your committee has done and that you personally have done, but I'm just wondering, like, do we need another resolution from the board reminding the hospital that we still support this? I don't want to like sidetrack the business of our executive committee, but it just, I don't know.
Well, I am so happy you brought this issue up because I've been meaning to talk to Eli about it. I wasn't thinking that we needed a resolution, although I'm certainly not opposed to that idea. But I certainly thought that, I think that based on our previous resolution, we could, and based on our previous conversation here tonight, we can certainly send a letter. And we can certainly remind the hospital that whenever it's, as soon as it is deemed possible, those beds should be reinstated. That is, I think, the hospital's legal obligation as well as its moral obligation to provide those beds to people in our community. Sending people up to Westchester or to the Upper East Side is not necessarily a suitable alternative.
So looking just for some clarification from Jim, I gather that a letter such as what Steve described sort of stands on the shoulder of existing resolutions, correct? And we don't actually need a new resolution? It's kind of consistent with what we've passed in the past, yes?
I agree with your logic. Basically, we're reminding them of what we told them before.
So yeah, so Eli can, so we'll bring it up to Eli when I check.
I'm happy to work with you on wording if that's helpful.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then there's one more hand for
I'm
Steve
sorry,
Domingo.
Is Eli on the call?
No, he's not. He had an emergency, hence why
really?
Tanya and I are handling the meeting.
Okay.
So Domingo, he has a question for you, Steve.
Hey,
Domingo, your
Steve,
hand.
it's around Curtis raised a very good point around when the COVID vaccinations came about. I don't know if you heard it. Were you here on the meeting for that or no? Not yet.
No, I missed it.
Okay, cool. So it's basically around vaccination, how, yeah, this is one of the communities that was considered a yellow zone, right? And with high rates of COVID. Yet when the rollout of the vaccinations came out, this community, it was a vaccination desert, you know?
Right.
So I was just wondering, I actually got to speak to the hospital. They're vaccinating about 3,000 people per day, according to them. But my question to you is there any way that there could be like some education, because the community is still on some conspiracy theory where they think Bill Gates put in some chips in there and concerned about that?
Right. All right. Well, that's a new one. But I'm glad you raised this point. I meant to address it in my report. I've been in touch with both the health department and the Test and Trace Corps. Having the armory is maybe great, but it's certainly not sufficient for our community. We need to have more immunization sites. And this may be, I don't know, maybe this is another letter or maybe it's a resolution. I don't know, but they got to do better by us. They promised me that they're looking at opening up other sites in our community, that they're still working on it. As late as 5 o'clock today, they told me they were still working on it. At one point, they told me they were looking for pharmacies and other places as well. But they didn't have anything for me to report on tonight. But although the hospital tells me that people who are not affiliated with the hospital can still get vaccinated at the armory, it's still not that easy. And
yeah, it's for folks 65 and older. Those are the only individuals they're allowing to get vaccinated at the moment.
Yeah, but even there, I mean, you have to enroll on their Connect portal site, and it's just not. It's not that easy
They actually created. I could send you the link, Steve. They created what they're calling a web app.
Could you send that to me? Because I've been complaining that that they've been referring people to this existing portal of theirs, which has been designed basically for their own, for people who are already patients. I mean, granted, plenty of people in Washington Heights and Inwood already have some kind of connection to the hospital, already use services at the hospital, but I've gotten feedback that it's not that easy for others to enroll. But still, it's and I didn't hear that they can do 3,000 a day. I thought I heard 1,300. But we need more. We need more.
Let's make sure we can bring folks in
So
maybe
I was
to the
in a
next meeting.
report, Steve.
Domingo, hold on.
Oh,
Domingo, sorry, because we have other hands. But also I wanted to add just my hand, and as a committee member, thinking about how we can strategize to make this a core topic at our next meeting. So it's Debbie and then Tanya.
Hi,
Debbie,
all
go
right.
ahead.
So just in the absence of somebody here from MBPO, I just want to say again, the Manhattan Borough President Brewer has done a 3-page letter dated January 14th. So I guess I would say it's like at the MBP level, like this is on top of, so we don't need, we're under that, right? It is 3 pages. It goes through the lack of planning and inadequate vaccine distribution. It goes through the overall organization, technology, locations, like, and then everything about the lack in the highest zip codes to not have a plan. In every single zip code, it goes into why, with months and months to plan this, why, and we already had elevated zips, right? That why there wasn't a better infrastructure in place for zip codes like the ours in CB12. It goes into every aspect of what we've been saying. So I think it would be helpful if that can get distributed to the board, because we're a little bit sort of recreating the wheel maybe, of conversations that are happening at the highest level, where as they should be. And again, that was January 14th, as I understand it.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
And special populations and all of that, and the issue of that now it is a mishmash because you can search for locations on a common site, you can look at eligibility on a common site, but those are 2 different sites. But when it comes to actually scheduling appointments, then it's that free for all, right? Like it's at different places and institutions do it in different ways, whether it's public or private. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
So before Steve, you respond to Debbie, let's take Tanya's hand in, and then you can respond to both.
Okay.
Yeah, just very quickly. I mean, I get that we need all the testing sites and everything for COVID, but I think one of the things that could be helpful is to have some sites where people can be navigated to, to register to be vaccinated. I think there's a lot of confusion in terms of which group people are belong to, and if they're in a group, especially we're talking about now elderly population, they may need help to navigate the system in order to register to get vaccinated. So I guess one of the things that I would wonder about is how this board, maybe the health committee and health and environment committee, or the board in general, can partner with the MBPO, as Debbie was talking about, to get sites where people can be able to register, sites with computers and things like that, where we can help people to do that. Because I think that's the problem, is that people don't know how to do it, or it's difficult, as people were pointing out, and or they don't have places to do it easily. So that's just my suggestion, Steve.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge, right, like we could talk at length about the issues around appointments and testing and everything that's going on. And so I think, Steve, this is a great idea to be able to just like collect the suggestions, and health and environment being the holder and thinking about what the next conversations and the rollout of conversations that we can have, what agencies we can potentially partner with. So I'm going to just take the last hand, which is Jim. So go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. I just have a few quick comments. The reason they're only taking people 65 and above is that's what's currently permitted. Now, Edonis, I think on Friday sent out a letter, and it actually had 2 different links in terms of getting in touch with the Presbyterian run thing at the Armory. And one of them was their Epic thing, or whatever it is that Steve was talking about, that only works for people who are already associated with the Armory. But there was a second link on the same page that would allow you to register and maybe become part of this. So if you can get your hands on the Adonis letter, reach out to Adonis. More people, I think, need to. I didn't try that link, but the point is it's there, and it's apparently for outsiders. And it was one little link, but it was there. So,
That's right. It is. There's a one for
right, exactly.
people that aren't already
right.
clients of New York Presbyterian.
And one other tiny little comment, and you're all right. The way this is organized at the moment, which someone described, was, and even the map that has everything, the Armory site was there and then it disappeared. So the whole thing is not being well done. And Tanya's point, by the way, of having people reach out to elderly people to help navigate this thing, I think that's very, very well taken.
Yeah, and Ellie, I think Ellie opened up talking about some of the outreach or asking for additional referral of agencies and folks that we can partner to outreach to. So we're gonna move on to now I know, to Mary Anderson, and I think you had your hand up, so you can
I
connect
did,
your point
but
there.
I
Go
can,
ahead. So you can go share your report and any point that you want to share as well.
well, I can throw in what I was going to say in reference to appointments and the aging, the elderly people in the community. The senior centers are making appointments for the seniors that are registered for their programs. So they are getting that kind of help. Now, for those who are not registered with the, the senior centers, that's another issue. But, certainly I'm having my own difficulty getting an appointment for vaccination, and I'm certainly in that category. I'm eligible, but I need help myself to get an appointment. So, and the Connect has no appointments. I'm a member of the Presbyterian, the Columbia Presbyterian Physician Network, and still can't get an appointment through that. So we'll see. And I live only, like 3 blocks from there. So anyway, back to my committee. We had
Mary, I'm going to see if I can help you.
actually, yeah, and Richard Ullman's helping also. So we'll see. Eleazar said he gave my name to whoever at the beginning of the meeting. So thank you for all of you. I appreciate it.
What Mary just said is an open offer certainly to the group.
Yeah. So, first one comes is the winner. So we'll see what happens. We had a very robust meeting at our last meeting on January 7th. Carmen De La Rosa presented on 2 bills that she's sponsoring that have to do with the aging. One is regarding people who commit crimes against the aging and having stiffer penalties as a result of those crimes. And the other bill has to do with people 55 plus who have been in prison for a number of years, being released, and with plans for reintegrating into the community. It's been studied and studied and studied that people in that age category who have been in prison for a long while, that the rate of recidivism is slim to none. So trying to get that bill passed. And she also spent a long period of time talking about mental health issues regarding the seniors in the community, and talking about particularly the things that are going on at this time with, issues of abuse, isolation, concern about closed senior centers, nowhere to go, friends and family dying, not feeling comfortable going out into the community to do shopping or banking or anything like that. And then, of course, we've been still dealing with these long lines. I don't know if anybody has continued to see long lines at businesses or banks or post offices.
30 seconds,
Certainly I
Mary.
have at post offices. I'm sorry?
You have 30 seconds. I reclaimed some of your other time too, so.
My goodness.
I added on.
Okay.
Because you were interrupted, so go ahead.
And she's concerned about, the fact that they're trying to cut back services of all kinds and working on trying to prevent mental health services for seniors being cut in any way, shape or form. And I could go on, but that was the gist of her presentation.
I'm sure we'll also read about it in the minutes this month as well.
Yes, and other information will be in the minutes that I hopefully will get produced in a couple of days.
All right, well, awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. Are there any questions for Mary? All right. We are going on then to Jonathan. Jonathan, IT Task Force. Do you have anything to share tonight?
Yeah, well, basically, we have two items pending. Ebenezer already mentioned one of them, which was acquiring a new license for a new Zoom account, specifically for those moments when we have meetings simultaneously. So we're trying to get everything on the same place, meaning on Zoom servers only. So we're planning to remove webinar in this case. And also, second item is we are going to implement language interpretation, where the host will be able to add like channels or room where we're gonna have one interpreter, and the attendees will be able to pick either the current channel or the interpreter channel to listen on his language. At first instance, we're gonna start with Spanish in the first pilot. That's it.
Awesome. Wayne has a question, and then you can go, Steve. Thank you.
I was just wondering, Jonathan, is that going to be for all committee and general meetings, or will there be some pilot committees where that is used initially?
Well, I think at first instance, we're going to implement this solution for general meetings where we mostly have Spanish speakers attendees.
Okay.
Steve?
Well, that was basically my question, but shouldn't we also utilize this for the licensing committee?
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're just going to pilot it first in the general meeting, but for sure licensing, I know,
Yes.
was on the short list of where we tend to have the most Spanish speakers, or monolingual folks, I should say.
Yeah, mostly because we don't have one interpreter for each of our committees, you know. So that's why we're gonna start on general meetings firstly.
All right, but speaking on behalf of Isidro, I'm sure he would like to have it for his committee as soon as possible.
Okay.
Let me interject. This is Ebenezer. For the last 4 months, we have been using translation for Isidro's meeting. We're planning to continue to do those. So.
Okay, well, he didn't tell me. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm sure we're all excited to see interpretation in our future meetings.
We've got a question from our attendee, Aisha Ogilvy, who's a member of the board, but not of this committee.
Sorry, I didn't see. Oh, I'm not a co-host on here, so I can't unmute her. If somebody can unmute her, or if Aisha, if you can throw it in the Q&A real quick.
Well, can Jonathan or...
There we go.
I did already. She can talk now.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Aisha, and welcome. Oh, where's she?
Aisha, you can talk now.
I think we lost her.
No, she's here. She just got
there
bumped
you go.
up.
Got it. Mm,
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. So my question is in regards to the functioning of the ITT task force. At a previous general meeting, the current chair announced that I was going to be included in said task force, which I previously was the chair of, prior to being targeted specifically because of the Armory matter. But I have not received any communications in regards to said task force, and neither does the website list that it is even in session at all. So that is my question. How are the agenda and the goals of this task force?
Yeah. Well, as of, so, I mean, Ellie's not here tonight, so I can't speak for him, but what I'll say is that I haven't received any new, in terms of assignments for this new year, but I would definitely recommend to reach out to Ellie in terms of when that might be coming out. And so, you know, I think that's the best next step for sure.
So according to the bylaws, the appointments for said committees generally are in September. So I'm not sure what this new year refers to.
But I mean, appointments tend to shift as well, depending if we move folks or folks have conflicts.
Oh, was
So
there a
if,
conflict?
well, I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. So I can't speak for Ellie. I see Liz had her hand. Liz, you had her hand up? Yeah.
I could be missing something, but I think Eleazar already appointed Aisha as a member of the task force. And so in the same way that if somebody has a question about, say, Parks and Cultural Affairs, they would ask me because I'm the chair of that committee. Or if they have a question about LGBTQIA task force, they would ask Richard because he's the chair of that task force. Since Aisha's already been appointed as a member of the committee, and her question is, when's the committee going to meet and what's the agenda? That's a question that's appropriately directed to the chair of the task force, which is Jonathan, and he's on the call. So
I didn't understand the question. Sorry. I thought it was about when the appointment was coming out. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Aisha.
Can I also ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's sort of a comment. I guess, when issues like this come up, I guess one of the things that I guess I'm because I'm new here, when we defer things to just the chair, I guess issues like this can be handled by the entire executive committee. It seems like it's something like this, especially since these task forces are voted on and approved by the entire board. This committee can deal with that. I don't think it needs to wait to be deferred to one person. That's just where I'm thinking. Like, why should it, if this, I guess what I was reading and what she was saying was that she was supposed to be on this task force and she's not getting any communications or being included in what's going on. And so I just think that is an issue that this committee should deal with, if that's the case, because I wouldn't want anybody to, myself having experienced stuff like that still, I wouldn't want anybody to have that happen, because we need all minds, especially right now during COVID and things, and we need as many minds as we can bring together to come up with better solutions to better serve the community. So if that includes Aisha, great, and anybody else who wants to, great, you know what I mean? So I think we can deal with that. So the question becomes, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that as a committee?
Yeah, I have a parliamentary comment on that.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. The only person who controls who's on what committee, task force, whatever, is the chair. And so the suggestion that, Aisha reach out to Eli to find out what's going on.
Aisha is on the task force already.
That is the correct suggestion. And this committee has no say in that matter. The chair again decides. Excuse me. Whatever it is, the chair decides who is going to be on it. And that's Aisha's issue. Now, if she's not getting the information, that's also something that she
is on it. If people don't read, there's according to the committee structure, she's on it.
That's what I'm saying.
I am talking. The point is, this is up to the chair, entirely up to the chair.
The task force
is committee or any other committee.
Jim, we just clarified that Aisha is on the task force. Her problem was she is on it. The problem is that, and thank you, Paula. The issue is that she's saying is that she's supposed to be on the task force and she's not getting any communication or being included in anything that's going on with the task force.
Right. And the person who deals with that is the chair.
We are the executive committee.
So folks, let me call order real quick, because we can't speak over each other. And so I want to acknowledge first of all, Aisha, I understood the question as if you were not clear if you were appointed, which is why I deferred to the chair, right? Because appointments have to do
I was clear. I actually made a reference in my statement of being appointed at a previous general meeting.
Right. Okay, I got you. But what I'm saying is I misunderstood. So I understand that now. 2, what I'm going to acknowledge as the next step is in terms of communication between Jonathan, Eliezer, and you to understand where the challenges are in terms of not being able, in terms of what's getting lost in the sauce, if that makes sense. Because without having clear communication between Aisha, Jonathan, and Eliezer, we're going to continue to repeat the same cycles, and we don't necessarily want to go back to that.
And also that being
So if we can acknowledge when our set, if it's about set meeting times, if it's about what are the communications, what are the projects, then my recommendation is to be able to address that so that as an executive committee, we can know what's happening and how that task force is moving forward.
So also in that regard, the general structure of task force and committees is generally that there is a chair and an assistant chair. As you can see on the list that has been provided, there is no assistant chair. There is Jonathan, who is the chair, and then there is me with no designation. It is my feeling that what has been happening is that an attempt has been made to keep me out of leadership positions, despite the fact that I held two for this board and was on two separate committees that were voluntary in nature on this board. In the Housing and Human Services Committee, for instance, there is a lot of the work that is being done with information that I have provided, which the current assistant chair does not have because she lacks the experience. She admits this herself. All due respect to OC, who does make a great effort. But even in that, it is my feeling that there is an act that is happening to prevent me from engaging in leadership, but expecting me to take said leadership positions in action. Thank you.
I once again have a parliamentary comment. Task forces generally do not have assistant chairs. Thank you.
Since when? There was one.
Since the beginning of time, they never did, and I don't know of one that does.
Wait, the back and forth, folks, the back and forth. Like we're in 2021. We are acknowledging, and Aisha, I want to thank you for bringing up your grievances into this body, where I reiterated, again, the appointments are made, the lists are made in terms of what Paola shared on the screen by Eliezer. What I'm going to recommend as a next step, and I think that this executive committee can hold accountability to, is ensuring that there is a meeting that takes place between Jonathan, yourself, and Eliezer to be able to address the concerns that you have and how we can continue to move forward.
Thank you.
So, and you're welcome, and thank you. I do see that there were a bunch of hands, so we're going to move forward on to, because we still have one more report, and that is from Richard Allman. Richard.
Unmuted. There isn't a committee report tonight, but the discussions over the last few minutes have made me even more aware that there's some organizational issues to be addressed. And I would hope to report to the executive committee on that next month.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Richard. All right, we're gonna continue to move on. Liz, I see your hands up. And unfortunately, like, part of what was brought up earlier has to be convened in terms of Eliezer and Jonathan, so we can get a fuller understanding of what's going on, right? Because we can't necessarily address it without having all the parties who need to be present. So the next item that we have on the agenda is old business.
I have an old business item and a new business item.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with the old business.
Okay.
I had my hand up.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Well, you had your hand up for which point?
For the task force reports, not for old business.
All right, so
I respectfully
yield to Liz.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Tanya, and apologize. Go
In
ahead.
the same way that the committees meet regularly, I respectfully request that all of the task forces that are constituted and that have chairs, and that, as Jim pointed out, do not have assistant chairs because task forces have never had assistant chairs, that all of the task forces please meet. Because what is the point of having a task force if it does not meet? And whatever other issues may be happening, whatever other past history or context on which I render no opinion whatsoever, the fact remains, as Paola just showed us, we have two task forces, they have members, and the chairs should get their shit together and have meetings and do stuff. Thank
you. FYI, the
Thank you,
website
Liz.
currently states that the LGBT task force has an assistant chair, which is Tanya Bonner.
Okay, so clearly has to get corrected because she's laughing. All right, go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, I'm laughing because, like I said, we just have to. This is not consistent. So yes, I am listed as that, and as assistant chair, and there have been assistant chairs on task forces. So it's just we need to have some clarification on that. But as far as old business, right, Kathy? I'm on old
Yeah,
business.
we're on
right?
old
Okay.
business.
All right, thank you. Okay, just want to make sure I'm following. Okay, so old business. I want to talk about the inclusion resolution, the one that we passed almost a year ago, last February. And I want to ask about putting that on the agenda for our next month's executive committee meeting to talk about where that is and what we have committed to review what we committed to in that resolution and what and moving that forward. I'm happy to myself continue to work with Steve Simon and to advance this forward, to make this happen, in terms of the things that we agreed to do in that resolution. That's could be something that I can take on in my role that is undefined. And happy to do that as we did work on the resolution itself. But I really would like to bring that forth and recommend that be on the agenda. And I just need to ask, how does that work? Like, do we vote on what the agenda's items are, or do we just recommend them and they're put on the agenda, or how does that work?
Yes, so traditionally, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, folks can recommend agenda items. You just have to email Eliezer so it can get added. And I think, Paola, you're the one that puts together the agenda, remind me? In terms of typing it
the
up?
chair would decide what he
Yeah.
wants on the agenda.
Okay,
So just email
in general.
Ellie, Ellie about adding
So
it.
let's say I email and it's not that there is no response to it, and that, because this is not the first time I've asked about it. We've asked about it numerous times over the last year. And so if I email and I say, hey, I want this to be on the agenda for the next executive committee meeting, there's no response, or there's some other thing that happens that keeps it off, how can this needs to advance? And so, I think
you just asked a parliamentary question, and the answer is the agenda has to be approved. And when that comes up at the executive committee, you can ask to amend the agenda, and you would ask to add this thing, and then the committee would decide whether it wanted to add it or not.
Okay, gotcha.
So again, we generally have procedures for all these things.
Yeah, gotta work. That's a workaround. So I appreciate that.
Well, it's actually part of the regular procedure,
I think,
right?
To add to that in terms of the old business, and I know there was a hand for old business. I think to your point, Tanya, it's something that could actually become a standing agenda item. So that's something that, we could definitely talk to and suggest to Eliezer in terms of being able to monitor actual continuous work on that. And it's not just a resolution, right? It's the full work.
Right.
Any other old business? Flash the hands if you have old business. All right, OC.
Just had a comment about the discussion about the task force, and I want to
We're on
ask,
old business though. So.
I know, but I raised my hand and I was not acknowledged. So
motion to adjourn.
What? I'm
sorry, what?
That's kind of rude.
Very rude, but
what?
My hand is raised, by the way.
I know, Aisha. I see your hand. I see several hands, but we're on old business right now. So OC, I'll allow you to speak since you haven't spoken this meeting.
So I want to ask the chairs of the task force to please post the meeting time when you meet, because that has to be public meetings. You can't just meet among themselves and nobody knows about that. And so far, it wasn't posted anywhere as far as I could remember. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Great suggestion, OC. You could lower that hand. So any other old business?
So the statement that I wanted to make was in regards to the inclusion resolution, which Tanya spoke on. In a previous conversation, this chair actually stated to me in regards to the inclusion resolution that we should let bygones be bygones. And considering the effort that has gone into that specific matter, coming down from the borough president's office, I think that is quite inappropriate, to say the least. And that it's been dragged for an entire year is also inappropriate. That being said, I am one of the people named in that resolution, and the delay of reviewing that matter is something that has specifically affected me and my experience on this board. So I would like to see that good work be done.
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha. Is there any new business?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a new business item. I'm sorry.
There was a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Wait,
I had a new I had a new business item.
Understand, but
I
if
had
there's
a
a
new-
motion,
But
hold
that's
on.
not parliamentarily correct. We accepted
had
the agenda and it includes new business. So accepting a motion to adjourn without being recognized is inappropriate. You don't just get to spit out a motion to adjourn.
Well, you
ahead
do
of the
that all
agenda
night
item.
though. You spit out all night.
I
And people
understood.
have things to do, man. Like
Except
Hold
the
on,
agenda
wait.
says old business, new business, adjournment.
All right, folks. I'm not a co-host. I'm not a host, so I can't mute at will. Tanya, if you have one item, go ahead, share your item, and then we will move to a motion to adjourn. It's 8:48. It'll take 2 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. The new business item that I have is that we look at the resources that we put out in terms from the community board. I feel that there are a lot of community resources that are not included in those outputted, messages and things. And I would like to see, again, maybe this could be also an agenda item, that we look at better ways to collate all of the resources in the community that are available to the community. I know of many things that are happening in the community that don't make those calendars or don't get communicated to the community that's going on. And especially in this time of COVID and other businesses trying to stay open and things that are happening, I just think it's important that we make sure that we include all of these resources. Is there a way and to help the office? And I know it's a lot of work, and I do understand to collate this stuff, but is there a way for us to look at how to better gather these resources so that the community is aware of all of the things that are available to them in the community?
Okay, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think if there are gaps that you're noticing in the information that, for example, Chanel sends out through the listserv in terms of what's on the website, because I know isn't the small business committee, they're talking exactly about that, right? Being able to put the resources on the website. So I think if there's a gap that you notice, making sure that both Jonathan, that Chanel, Ebenezer, Eliezer, and Domingo have the information of the resources that's missing the mark right there. But great suggestion in terms of new business. All right. And we have now gotten to, that's the only new business item that we have.
Can I say something real quick? I just want to say we are in a time right now where we just witnessed a siege on the Capitol with racism. Okay. And we are at a time where we are experiencing over in 2020, we experienced a large scale racism and other forms of oppression in our country. And I think when we were talking about the inclusion resolution, it's no small matter because this is something that is important. And I guess what I'm saying, I do want to go. I want to end the meeting. I don't want to take up people's time, but I just don't think that was a place to tell people to just be done when we're talking about something that's important as making sure that we ourselves are practicing equity and inclusion and within our board.
Which is why, again, like I'm reemphasizing, I think a lot of folks on this call feel it in terms of like it should be a standing agenda item. So, I'm down, and I think a lot of us as well to be able to suggest it to Eliezer for our next exec meeting and being able to have action items that we can continue to follow. So with that said, and on that
motion to adjourn.
So I'm sorry, Kathy, I have my hand raised.
Thank you. Good
but
night.
Aisha, we're moving to the motion to adjourn. We had new business, and that was the last item for new business. Excuse me?
It is only.
No, I understand that, but
those members that are tired can
Aisha,
off.
this is not about Aisha.
Yeah, you can get off,
Aisha,
exactly, right? You're not even an
speaking
executive
over
committee
people.
I wouldn't care.
Domingo, can people mute? Can people mute? Can people
yeah, you're
mute?
really disrespectful, wasting people's time.
Oh, please. This is a recording.
First of all, thank you, host. This is not about tiredness. This is about being able to follow an agenda. I asked for any new business. We had one new business item, meaning that we move forward to adjourn. So we have one adjournment. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you, everyone. We have a lot of work to continue to do. I want to thank everybody for their participation this evening. And yeah, we have a lot of emails and homework to continue to do. So thank you for folks who are watching as well. Have a good night.
Thanks for hosting.